Last Sunday in Green Bay, we saw a whole lot of this and also a whole lot of that. Ouch. A rough outing for the offense, to say the least, and they still had a chance to win the ball game. That is, until this happened. A walk-off win in Green Bay. So what happened? The crew is all here to break it all down. The Texans' former Texas offensive coordinator, Pep Hamilton, and DJ Bieniemy of ESPN. And DJ, one or two more plays, and the Texans still could have walked out of Lambeau with the win.
Yeah, I mean, on the last drive of the game, they got into the red zone. But some questionable play calling. Run.
Easy now.
Run. And then a pass that went out of bounds. And D'Amico said we were just trying to complete the pass. But even if you complete the pass, you're out of bounds, and the Packers still had their timeouts. If they get into the end zone, I believe the defense would have held the Packers out of the end zone, and the Texans would have walked out with the dub.
From offensive coordinator to offensive coordinator, after a performance like that offensively, how much sleep are you getting at night this week?
Well, I don't know that it changes anything about how you approach, how you prepare for the next opponent. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, you're on the road, tough opponent, a really good football team in the Green Bay Packers, and you were close. You had a chance to win at the end of the game. As I mentioned to you guys several shows ago, it's hard to expect that you're going to win them all, all right? But if you run the table at home, split on the road, not that you don't want to win them all right? Your goals are right there within arm's reach. So there's no need to panic. All right, let's get back to the drawing board. Let's correct some of the protection issues and challenges that they face that we'll talk about over the course of this show.
You were offensive coordinator with a talented star second-year quarterback, Andrew Luck. I remember his second year with the Indianapolis Colts, you guys had a game where you guys only put up 8 points against St. Louis Rams.
Flashbacks now.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I know.
You had to throw that out there. That's okay.
So kind of what was your approach to making sure you guys get that nasty taste out of you guys' mouth going into the next week?
Well, we had an identity as an offense and as a team, but it was a bad day at the office. If I remember correctly, Tavon Austin may have broken some records.
He had 2 touchdowns.
You remember that, huh?
Yeah. The NFL season is a long season. It's a journey. Mm-hmm. It is important that you can hit the reset button from week to week without discounting the fact that you got to go back and you got to make the necessary adjustments so that you can really have a chance to go out the next week and atone for some of the mistakes that you made the prior weeks. But it is a on to the next day, on to the next opponent, on to the next play mentality.
Adjustments for the Houston Texans, it starts up front. We have a graphic showing you how much C.J. Stroud was pressured over the past week. He went 10 of 21, only 86 yards, which is a career low for the young star QB. He was sacked 4 times and had a pressure rate of 48.3, which is a season high. DJ, I see you puffing air. It's a rough outing for this offensive line.
You know how crazy it is that it's a season high? We've been talking about throughout the entire year about CJ being under pressure a lot. And the fact that was a season high is unfathomable in my estimation. That's why they couldn't get anything going through the air, right? Since you're pressuring CJ, he was getting a little skittish in the pocket. He wasn't really trusting the pocket. He got hit a few times. He mentioned that on Wednesday, how he needs to get better at just being able to trust the pocket and not kind of bail and things of that nature. So, but again, if I was getting hit a lot, I'd be running
Human nature, right?
How much of a problem, in your estimation, is this offensive line right now for the Houston Texans?
Yeah, I don't know that the offensive line is necessarily the problem.
Right.
And I say that because we ran the ball fairly effectively.
They did. Joe
Right,
Mixon,
exactly,
absolutely.
exactly.
I don't have the numbers or the notes, which I'm sure you do, DJ, of what the situations were in which he was under the most pressure. All right, there's no excuse for your quarterback having to be picked up off the ground. We're going to see some examples of different pressures and stunts in which we'll see some offensive linemen with their back to the line of scrimmage, and that's been a common issue with their pass protection. Just having trouble picking up some of the twists in games that they see from Sunday to Sunday.
You hit it right there, the nail on the head there. It's a conversation we had previously following the Vikings game. Let's take a look.
One thing that our fans can look at, if you ever want to know who's the culprit in a pass protection breakdown, just look at which offensive lineman has his back turned to the line, looking at the quarterback.
Well, it wasn't just against the Vikings. We also saw it against the Bears.
You see it? Look.
This man funny, man. This man funny, man. This man funny.
That's one of my favorite moments on the show. We have to take a look here. Who's the culprit on some of these plays in Green Bay?
Well, stop. All right, well, we can't stop it there, but you'll see. All right, so this is a double mug front, meaning you got two linebackers mugged up in the A-gaps. All right, there are 6, maybe even 7 guys, a guy that we can't see that's up at the line of scrimmage. All right, it is a challenge, as you can see, for that running back to get to that A-gap, all right, from his normal running back alignment. And that was more the issue. All right, we'll see another clip, another example of this pressure, but you're going to see the linebacker in the A-gap that's to the offense's right side. He's going to go and hit the hip of the center right here to stop that center from being able to pop back and pick up that twist game. And so this is a problem, all right? And the only way to solve it is really to get the running back up in that gap to clog that gap a lot sooner so that they can't pick your center. But that's a pressure that they'll see again if they don't address it. Now what we're seeing is, go back, all right, you'll see the same double mug front, all right, 2 linebackers in the A-gap, and now the attention of the offense is right here in the A-gaps. All right, but the pressure is going to come from the tight end side to the field. We're going to free release the back here. They should squeeze down in the A-gaps to pick this up. The tight end should be popping out to pick up that slot defender that's rushing off the edge, and there's no excuse for that. But the key to this pressure, you saw Rashawn Gary step up first before he looped around, distracted the tight end, and now he's in no position to protect
this position.
Look, all right, and then you'll see, all right, let it roll. Okay, who's looking back at the quarterback? You can't see the tight end in this clip. All right, that's a bad look for 59. He wasn't the culprit that time.
That's a problem that the Houston Texans have to get fixed. So the question is, maybe personnel changes, potentially coaching staff changes. What do you?
Coach, what are you?
I'm asking you. Come on, Pep. You're the offensive coordinator. I'm asking you a question. Yeah. That's a problem that needs to be fixed.
I ain't saying anything about
doing the surrendering sign
in season. I ain't saying nothing about firing no coaches.
So how does it get fixed, DJ?
How does it get fixed? They got to execute on the road. Because it's not that much of a problem at home, right? The games where they've had 3, 4, multiple sacks, it's usually on the road because of crowd noise.
Crowd noise.
Exactly.
That
so
matters.
The biggest issue from what I've noticed is communication and execution. Because at home, even though against the Bears, they gave up some sacks, it's not as much of an issue because they're all way more aligned. So they're going to have to, maybe it's at practice, making the practice music way louder so they can try to simulate some of those in-game situations. But again, they're going to have to keep working through it. And I think by the end of the year, they'll be much better. But they'll need to be much better because when they go to Kansas City, at the end of the year, we all know how loud Kansas City gets. They have to have that fixed by then.
Good news for the Houston Texans. They are back at home this week taking on a divisional rival in the Indianapolis Colts. We'll preview that matchup coming up next after the break. Welcome back to Texans Pep Talk. Last week at Lambeau, the Texans offense struggled, but one man who did not is Mr. Joe Mixon. You see the numbers, 25 attempts, 115 yards plus 2 touchdowns. Another big day for Joe Mixon. And guys, I knew Joe was a Pro Bowl level guy, but I guess I didn't realize how physical and just how good of a runner he was on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And he adds to the Texans offense to make it to the point where they don't have to rely on CJ to be able to get points. Because CJ had his lowest passing yard day of his career, and they still got to 22 points. So having a guy like Joe Mixon allows the Texans to be balanced, and when the passing game is off, still be able to be efficient.
What does it do for an offensive coordinator when you have a guy of that type of talent in your backfield?
Well, he's very talented. I think the numbers speak for itself, but the personality of Joe Mixon.
Certain type of swag.
Yeah, he's a bell cow type of guy.
Yeah.
You know, he has a chip on his shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's been a part of a team that went to a Super Bowl.
Yep.
So his expectations for himself and, of course, the rest of the team, you know, is something that that I think ultimately is going to help this team, is going to help the guys in the locker room. But his production, it's unbelievable at this point. We talk a lot about the offensive line and some of their struggles with pass protection, but when Joe Mixon is dotting the I, he's been a guy that's been consistent in his ability to create his own yards in the run game.
Speaking of consistency, you would like to see a little bit more of that from Tank Dale. How did they get him going a little bit more to really take this potential of this offense to the next level, DJ?
I would say Bobby has to get a little bit more creative in getting him easy opportunities. He's faced the most man press coverage out of all.
They're trying to get hands on him early.
Yeah, and right now, when he faces that, he only has 21 yards when facing press coverage. So I think Bobby has to do a better job of freeing him up so you can get him easier opportunities and make him the primary read so you can get him engaged early in the game.
Well, Tank is still a young player, and I agree that, of course, you want to just try and be creative and find ways to get him the ball. But part of that is on Tank as well.
Yep.
Is he able to line up in multiple spots? Is he able to handle being on the move and motioning? Of course, he can motion.
Right.
But can you move him around?
Right.
All right. Does he have enough ownership of the system to be able to play? All right, the X, the Z, and or in the slot.
Right.
And with the time that he missed last year, I'm sure that there's still a part of the curve that that hadn't expired yet, that Tank is experiencing.
Yeah, well, they need Tank to step up this week as they take on the Indianapolis Colts. They'll be without the Colts killer, Nico Collins, at home this week at NRG Stadium. How do the Texans get the win on Sunday over the Colts with no Nico?
I mean, for me, formula is easy. Make Anthony throw, period. He's completing under 50% of his passes, and he loves to throw the ball beyond the sticks, beyond 10 yards. And it ain't good. I'm being very, very honest. It is bad. I think he's completing 39% of his throws when throwing it over 10 yards. And the Texans, they have one of the best pass defenses when defending throws over 10 yards. They hold quarterbacks to a pass rate of 67.
To be fair to Anthony Richardson, though, he seemingly has had his best games against the Houston Texans. Going back to last year.
He didn't finish that game.
He didn't finish that game.
How many games has he actually played?
That's like 1.5.
His best games, that's kind of scary, right?
I'm just saying, against the Houston Texans.
A game and a quarter. That's not enough
evidence.
What's the key to success for the Houston Texans this Sunday against the Colts?
Just to get back to who they are and being able to run the football, but the play action passing game that comes off the run plays, the run action passing game, should I say, is going to be important against the Colts defense. The Colts defense, as we talked about in our very first episode, is not a defense that's going to try and create a bunch of disguises.
Gus Bradley defense, yep.
All right, you know what they're going to do, you know where they're going to be, and they're sound, and they're going to play this Texans offense without Nico differently than what we saw in week 1 of the season.
With a win, the Houston Texans look at the rest of the division. The Jags, they're pretty much out of it. So are the Tennessee Titans. It's a hot mess over there in Nashville. So a win would go a long way for the Houston Texans and potentially wrapping up the AFC South later on down the season. We'll be right back after the break. With Halloween right around the corner, it's time to go trick or treating. I got my ghost Pac-Man bucket here. Pep's old school, so he's going with the pillowcases.
On the west side, on the hood.
So right now, we're going to go trick or treat on a couple of topics. If you agree with the premise, you're going treating. Grab some candy out the bowl. But if not, you're tricking. We'll start with the Houston Texans. We talked about it a little bit earlier on, but can this offensive line get fixed? Are you tricking or treating? I'm going to stay right here. I think it'll continue to be a problem all season long, so I will not be picking up any treats. You grabbing a whole lot, DJ. You must definitely think it's getting fixed.
Absolutely. I can't envision it being a problem.
Why not?
All the way through the end of the year and ruining their chances to make a semi-deep playoff run. I just can't imagine that. There's too much talent, too much money. I just can't imagine that it's going to continue to be a problem week after week on the road. You know what I mean?
Did you get any candy? Are you tricking or treating?
He grabbed some. He grabbed some.
He only grabbed a little bit.
He's not a hater like you.
He only grabbed a little bit.
He's not a hater like you.
No, I do feel as if it's a point of emphasis, and it will be. Not that it hadn't been, but from week to week, you're going to see repeat pressures and repeat stunts. You're going to see teams continue to try and threaten the interior gaps with the different movements and the different patterns of pressure that they've struggled with thus far. But I'm confident that Coach Slowick and the offensive staff, they'll do everything they can to keep CJ out of obvious passing situations, but more importantly, they're going to address some of the pressure issues.
Now, what was that? Was some Skittles and some M&Ms? What you got in the pillowcase, man?
Low-fat Skittles.
Low-fat Skittles is crazy.
Low-fat.
That doesn't exist.
Low sugar, should I say.
Yeah.
Our next one here on Trick or Treat, the Baltimore Ravens. Are they the biggest threat in the AFC? To me, that's a treat for me. Right now, with the type of football that they're playing, I'm going to grab a whole lot. Obviously, the Chiefs are your current Super Bowl champions, but right now, with the way Lamar Jackson is playing, we might be looking at a third MVP for Mr. Jackson. You guys are walking over there.
Well, I'm going to chime in first, and
good?
This can be short and sweet, right? Short and sweet, no pun intended, right? But until Pat Mahomes get tired of winning Super Bowls, all right, you got to go through Kansas City if you want to contend to win the national championship.
I'm still playing.
And their defense.
I said national championship, the world's championship.
Of course.
And their defense is giving up a lot of points. They've given up 25 points, I believe, in 4 out of the games this year. So that is a concern for me. And as he said, until someone knocked down the Chiefs, they're the biggest threat.
So the Chiefs' injuries, they don't concern you guys right now?
Not at all.
Really?
Pat Mahomes.
I mean, obviously, they're still undefeated. That says something.
They have an elite defense.
They've had injuries in prior seasons.
They still got an elite defense. They still got the best coach in football. They still got the best DC in football. And they still got the best quarterback in football. And they still got a very, very good interior offensive line. So they'll be able to run the ball in January and February.
We're going to come back.
And you can have a good coach. You can have all those other things.
Fair.
They have the best player in all of football.
Right now, the best player, at least this season, has been Lamar Jackson.
But Lamar has these spurts all the time in the regular season where he looks like the
has
best guy.
Has he played this well before with what he's been able to do? 5 touchdowns on Monday Night Football going into Tampa Bay. Of course, it helps to have and add a guy like Derrick Henry, but
shot clock.
Well, yeah.
No. Shot clock because you don't agree with it.
But more importantly,
I'm cooking it right now. I'm cooking it. They call for time.
Saying that anybody is the best player at this point in the season.
You said it.
All right. At this point in the season, just based on what they've done this season, I think that's more of a reach. Lamar Jackson statistically has been off the charts, right? But if you need to go watch the Baltimore-Kansas City game from last year, just to kind of bring you back down to earth. And I know the Kansas City is a different team, and they dealt with injuries and all those things that you guys mentioned. But Pat Mahomes, all right, is truly one of the best players that we've seen play in the National Football League, in the history of the league.
One of the better players also in the AFC. He's making his return this week. Tua Tagovailoa, he will make his return from that concussion that he had earlier this season. Are you tricking or treating as far as agreeing with him coming back this year? I have to go on the trick side. There's too many concussions for me. I would like to have him just sit down for the rest of the season. You're treating it.
That's a Miami guy.
But right now, I'm concerned about the brother. I appreciate what he had to say earlier this week, saying, of course, there's always risk, but I am concerned about Tua long term.
Yeah, as a coach, as a parent, I dealt with this with my son this year. You see your kid or you see your player lay on the field and they're not able to function normally. All right, that's a scary moment. And as much as Tua loves the game, and I got a ton of respect for his journey, at the end of the day, all right, he's going to make the best decision for him and his family. But Coach Pep don't agree with it.
That's fair. But as you said, to make the best decision for his family, he's obviously gone to the doctors, talked with his wife, talked with his parents, and they feel comfortable with him returning to the field. I got to respect that and respect his decision. 'Cause at the end of the day, it's his life. And if that's a choice he wants to make, then who am I to tell him not to do that?
Right.
Speaking of
But do you agree with it?
Do I agree with it? I'm fine with it.
If that was your son.
If that was my son?
If that was DJJ.
DJJ.
Where'd you have? Look, he already has the guaranteed money.
Well, if he retire, he gotta get some of that back. So
don't retire.
That's such a non-answer. You in your D'Amico bag right now.
Yeah, I'm in my D'Amico bag. I'm just worried about this week.
That's fine.
Speaking of decisions, let's go back to a few decisions that we made last week.
Yes, sir.
Now Pep Hamilton,
yes,
supposed to be around the
sir.
league a long time. The guy's supposed to know ball.
Where are the overalls?
Right now,
numbers.
8-7. We'll get to that. We'll have plenty of time for that. 8-7 last week. Not good enough. DJ and I tied for 10-5. You should see him right now. He's doing his little dance over there in the corner.
Yes, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. I'm the man. I'm the man with the plan, man. I'm the man with the plan. I'm the man with the picks. You feel me? Come on, man. You know what I'm saying?
Speaking of plans, let's go to
It's a long season.
let's go to your picks for this week, Pep. I see you have the Vikings taking down the Rams. You still haven't won a game on Thursday night.
I've won one game on Thursday thus far. I picked one game correctly.
The Jets over the Patriots.
If I don't get this one right tonight, we got a real issue. All right? Because that Vikings team is unbelievably talented and well-rounded, and they should win that game tonight. I mean, the rest of my picks, I don't know that there's any.
You have the Texans taking care of business at home over the Colts as well.
And I feel strongly about that. Buffalo, Seattle, that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's what we go.
The Bears and the Commanders, it's all dependent upon whether or not the young quarterback, Jaden Daniels, is going to be available to play. But considering that he got a little sauce on his ribs, I don't know if it's a good idea to put him out there until he's 100%.
So the 49ers, they bounced back this week and they beat the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football.
The Cowboys beat themselves on Sunday night.
Fair enough. We'll get to my picks now. I think that the Texans will take care of business as well. Well, and also the Lions, they continue to find ways to win. They beat the Tennessee Titans. And then I have the Vikings, of course, handling business later on Thursday Night Football, DJ.
Yeah, I mean, we all got a lot of similar picks, I think. I got some upsets. I got Bryce on the redemption tour, being able to get a win. I got the Cowboys bouncing back.
And you have Tua in his return getting the win.
You did too.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? That ain't.
That's your squad.
I mean,
the Cardinals, they had a really nice win last week on Monday Night Football.
Yeah. I mean, the Chargers have no one to throw the ball to. You know what I'm saying? They can't score points, so that's the only why they won that one. But yeah, I think we'll see. I took some risks.
Of course you did.
But we'll see what it looks like next week. I'll have a better record than Pep.
Let me see what your bucket looks like. What's in your?
My bucket thick. Yeah, man. You feel me?
What you got some new candy for this week?
That's crazy.
I do. I feel. I mean, it's a great week, for our Texans to go out and atone for what we saw this past Sunday. And I feel strongly that with this being a division game, we're going to see the best version of the Texans that we've seen this season.
When you do some Skittles or some M&M's, you got shaking in your hand a little bit.
You rolling dice?
Happy day. Thanks for watching Texans Pep Talk. Happy Halloween. We'll see you next week.